Hey everyone, Greg here, and thank you for downloading the latest edition of the DDT Archives Indy Lounge. We have a very special episode lined up for you today as we feature two talented young men who are lighting up the independent scene. First up in the lounge is Johnny Kove. Johnny is a 3-year vet out of Oklahoma and has worked all over the Midwest and was kind enough to hang out with Chris and I and tell his story. Later in the program, we are going to be joined by Grey Orion. Hear how Grey's background coming up in a military family brought him all over the world, but he found his true home in the wrestling ring. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at DDT Archives and Chris at Chris_DDTHSLB. You can find our show on Facebook and get all of our episodes and interviews on iTunes and Spotify. Just remember to search for DDT Archives and give us that 5-star rating. Thanks again for supporting the show, but without further ado, here's our interview with Johnny Kove.
I am really excited to have this young man, originally from Reseda, California, home of the Karate Kid, now residing out in Purcell, Oklahoma. Johnny Kove. How are you, Johnny?
I'm doing pretty good today. I can't really complain about anything, so feeling good.
Awesome. Real glad to hear that. For those people not familiar with you in the independent scene, tell us a little bit about how you got your start.
Well, it's probably much like everyone else that got their start. I got into wrestling. It wasn't something that I just wanted to watch and be a fan of. It was just something that it just felt like that's what I needed to be doing, and it was the only thing I was thinking of. So just contacted some, and at this time before I was a professional wrestler, I pretty low on some cash, so I didn't have the funds available to really contact schools like Black and Brave where Seth Rollins trains, or any of these big schools. So I had to kind of search the local areas in Oklahoma and kind of do some research, and I found a guy who goes by the name Brandon Barricade, who was trained by a Oklahoma legend, Tom Jones, Mr. Ebony. And that's where I got my start back in 2016 when I started training.
That's awesome. So you trained for a year and you've been working, correct?
Yeah, I've been working for about a little over 2 years now. This September will be 3.
Awesome. Excellent. Awesome. So, for a young guy in the business, you've had a lot of success. We were very excited when we watched the highlights of you winning your first individual championship. We found that on your Twitter page. Can you kind of talk us through the emotions you felt, winning your first championship?
Because I started with All-Star Pro. My trainer, I was one of his first trainees, and he was building me and another guy up. He's my rival, Tristan Thorne, and we were the first 2 students of the All-Star Pro school. And so he started the company All-Star Pro back in 2017, and I started paying my dues there. I didn't get to wrestle for a couple months when it first started. I was filming, selling the tickets, doing all that, and working my way up through there, making my debut at All-Star, and then getting to take on the champion at the time, Jake O'Brien, who is a mentor to me, who's taking me under his wing a little bit. And to really test myself to him for that title was really a really big deal for me, because at the time I was really insecure at my level of wrestling, but going toe-to-toe with him and coming out the victor, it really showed me that I have a lot of potential that I can reach, especially now that I have this title. So it was very emotional for me.
Awesome. So, kind of tell us about your persona, your character that you portray, kind of teach us a little bit about who Johnny Kove is.
Well, Johnny Kove, if you would have asked me about 2 years ago when I first started, Johnny Kove was just the underdog, the up and comer, just does everything fair, wants to earn respect, very humble. But I'm at a point now in my career that I can't really get any farther being, quiet, humble, respectful. There's a lot of guys out there. There's a lot of competition. And, now, if you ask me now who Johnny Kove is, I have a better picture of who Johnny Kove is becoming through this quarantine. I've had a lot of time to think to myself who Johnny Kove is. And really, Johnny Kove is, when wrestling returns, is going to be who I am when I'm drunk, pretty much, because I mean, that's who I always wanted to be, outgoing, in your face, talking smack, I'm not scared of anyone when I'm like that. So Johnny Kove now is going to be in your face. I'm better than you. That's why they call me the best around, and I'm going to show no mercy. So
But besides working on that and evolving your persona, what other things have you been able to work on during this whole pandemic craziness?
Really, just getting in better shape, because like when I was constantly having to, look for shows to wrestle during the weekends and whatnot, and I was also training for powerlifting meets with my dad, like during the week, and so I kind of gone away from powerlifting because that trying to lift heavy all the time was really taking a toll on my body and taking bumps all the time every weekend. So really, right now I'm probably in the best shape of my career during this quarantine, just physically and mentally, just being able to have patience. And another thing is just just trying to realize who I am as a person and not who I'm trying to be to promoters and other wrestlers, to a fake persona, just working on being the real me.
Absolutely. I mean, any positives that can come out of this hiatus for you before you can get back in the ring, it's only going to help you grow, man. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us about some of your favorite promotions that you've worked for so far.
Well, yeah, as of right now, I've mostly only worked in Oklahoma and Kansas, and I've gone to a few seminars and shows in Texas. But right now, my favorite's obviously All-Star Pro in OKC, WFC up in Tulsa. It's a charity organization that all the proceeds go to childhood cancer, and it's all benefit shows. That's one of my favorites. Up in Kansas in Hutchinson, Prairie Championship Wrestling. They're starting to pick up ground up there. There's a company that runs every often in Oklahoma and Texas, Lucha Americana, and it's a fun lucha show. And anytime I've wrestled on there, I've had a blast. So those are pretty much it right now that I've got to work.
So you mentioned, the seminars. Obviously, as a young, up-and-coming wrestler, those seminars are so important. So tell us some of the lessons you've learned from participating in seminars. Tell us some seminar stories as a whole.
Yeah, my first seminar was in 2018 in December. I hopped in a car with a few guys and we went down to Dallas to a company, I think it was Dallas Championship Wrestling, and it was a seminar ran by a pretty big indie name right now, Andy Dalton, Dirty Andy Dalton. And it was my first seminar. There was probably about 15, 20 of us there. And one of the things I got the most out of it was just being around other wrestlers and really realizing that I'm not as my experience is as good as theirs, if not better. And during that seminar, we had kind of like tryout matches, but like just kind of to see where we were at, 5 minutes. And I worked with a really good guy named Stephen Kirby, and after that match, I got some good connections, got some good feedback. And that's one thing I always take from seminars is you might not do your best in a seminar if there's tryouts and whatnot, but there's always ways to make connections.
Excellent. You also mentioned, when we had talked prior to this about Barrett Brown's seminar. What was that experience like?
That was probably another step in my career that really has taken me to a next level in terms of just, just everything. Because Barrett Brown, he was the guy that got he got 3D through the table at the Hall of Fame. I think he's signed to New Japan, the North America brand. He was at WFC. They were having a seminar tryout match sort of thing. You had to go through a Barrett Brown workout, which was basically like a New Japan workout because he'd been training under Shibata for weeks and stuff. And prior to this, I hadn't worked out. I haven't been in the gym, ran nothing for a full week, just trying to recover with my back, trying to deadlift heavy in the gym. So I go into this workout, just haven't been prepared for it. But it was probably one of the hardest workouts I've ever done in a old high school gym, no AC in the summer. We did probably 200 squats, 200 push-ups, running, drills in the ring, blow-up drills, everything. And at the end of the day, it came down to me and two other guys, but unanimously it was me that got chosen. So that was a real kind of step in my career that showed me that I can go toe-to-toe with anyone if I put my mind to it, really.
Well, it just shows your drive and your commitment too, to go put yourself through that. That's going to take you far, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. And I think that just comes from back in high school. I was not the toughest kid, believe it or not. And we one of you is a football coach, right?
I was.
Chris is, yeah.
You were. Okay, well, I'm sure you've been around head coaches that have been at organizations for a long time. They have a winning record, but they don't really, they've had a good career or so, but then they leave. They try to bring in a new guy who has to prove himself. And this coach, my junior year, had just won back-to-back state championships. And he's coming in, calling us every name in the book, pussies, words we can't use in this day and age. And our workouts, we would have to start practice over if we messed up. He really pushed me to my limit. And I think just coming from that world and into wrestling has really made my mental fortitude really, I can kind of withstand anything at this point, I feel like.
Oh, as a coach who values not ever doing that to someone, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm glad you turned it into a positive. It's the exact opposite philosophy I've always had. Somehow I feel like you motivate someone to get things out of them, not belittle them. But hey, you never know.
Yeah.
The other thing that you mentioned to me through Twitter was that you did the Wrestle One dojo tryout. How was that?
Ooh, man, that was because at first there was not a lot of information on that, and I hadn't really ever heard of Wrestle One before, and there wasn't a lot of information about it, but I saw a bunch of guys like reserving their spots for it down in Dallas. And, I put in my money just in case I wanted to do it. Cause I told myself, if I am going to be a wrestler, I have to take every opportunity available to me. I just put my money down, whether I could go or not. And then it wasn't until the day before, they asked me if I'm going to pay the rest of my money to go. And I just paid the rest. And it was in Salina, Kansas, which for me, that's a 4.5 hour drive. And you had to be there at like 7. So I was going to have to leave at 3 in the morning. And that was just something that I woke myself up at 3 and I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time, tired, and am I going to go? Or I was debating it all morning. Finally, I just made myself go. I get there. There's only about 20 of us there. And Sonny Ono comes in with Kaz Hayashi. And, it was just a surreal experience being with these guys who have a lot of experience in the business. And there were some good guys at this seminar, at this tryout. And, we all had to fill out a form, write our names down. They drew us guys at a time, had to do drills in the ring, and we all switched out. And then the really tough part was you had to pair up with someone, have a 5-minute match. And I didn't know really anyone at this tryout. Like, I wasn't good friends with anyone, so I didn't know people were already pairing up. So I got paired up with some guy he had to have been 50 or something, and his bumps were not good. He was not in the best shape, but I told myself I was going to turn this chicken shit into chicken salad if I can. I mean, it didn't work out that good for me, but I did my best, and I think I got a lot of respect from a lot of the guys there, and even the Sonny Ono. So, I mean, I didn't get picked to go, but the guys that got picked, they deserved it, and it was just a really good experience for me to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone.
That's awesome. I think any opportunity you get, especially as a young athlete, regardless of sport, especially in wrestling, you take the opportunities and you have to make the most of them. Anytime you're stuck in a spot where the person you're with has to carry their end of the deal, you just gotta get the most out of them, and it speaks volumes to you as a performer. You're able to get something out of somebody like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and especially have the mindset to be like, I'm going to make the best of the situation, regardless of what's going on. Like that shows a certain level of maturity that I absolutely respect. I saw, there's an old interview with Chris Jericho where he talks about, some of the not the best experiences, but it's like one piece of clay on the sculpture because it all boils down together.
Yeah. Totally.
So I noticed, and our audience can't see it, but over your left shoulder is Bret Hart.
Yeah.
So tell us the significance of Bret Hart.
Well, to be honest, I was always a Shawn Michaels guy. Like, first wrestler I really sunk my teeth into, had his DVDs, and his DVD really made me want to be a wrestler. But then it wasn't until, getting into wrestling and everything, and sitting down and reading his book that a friend gave to me, I really found a new respect for Bret Hart, not only just from a person, but a wrestler technician. Like, all his stuff is, as a fan, I look at wrestling a lot different, but now as a worker, just, analyzing everything that Bret Hart did means so much. And he's one of the best of all time. So, I mean, yeah.
So we're an old school podcast on a regular show. Mm-hmm. And so we go back and we watch like the old pay-per-views and things like that. We don't go too far. We go far back, but sometimes we'll stay a little current. So what's a guilty pleasure for you? What's like a match you can keep, or like, it doesn't have to be that old, but any match that you can go back to and watch and, kind of always go back to and see?
I mean, now that I know y'all are old school, growing up in my house, I was a WCW family. My dad, it was, his favorite wrestler, Ric Flair. So before I really got into wrestling, I knew about the Four Horsemen, the Road Warriors. That was like one of the first tag teams I ever learned about. So yeah, going back to like those, like Ric Flair, Arn and Tully matches, Road Warriors stuff. Like, I love watching that stuff. Just how the fans reacted, and lately, a real guilty pleasure is like Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody. Just how they would walk out in Japan and like everyone would just clear. It was just like crazy.
Well, that's because they weren't sure where Stan Hansen was going to swing things because he didn't see them.
Yeah, like those guys are just there's not anyone like them anymore.
So do you kind of look at those guys as influences on your style now, like the more the older wrestling?
Yeah, definitely. Cause at first, getting into wrestling, I started watching all the independents like PWG, Ring of Honor, and guys more my size, like 6 foot under, 200. And but after a while, like all that wrestling, no offense, but some of it just everyone just tries to do a watered down version of that now on the independents. Going back and watching like Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, and then even like Hulk Hogan matches, that everything they did means more. And it's so cliche to say, you get told all the time in the business, but less means more. And during this quarantine, I've just been going back, watching these old school stuff, like, analyzing that and trying to, take in what they're doing, even in the interviews, like all the old school interviews with Tony Schiavone, the Four Horsemen, Jim Cornette, those guys. Just, I'm definitely going to try to start putting more of that style into my career going forward.
Well, you got to learn from the best. There's a reason all those names you mentioned are considered the greatest of all time. So it's probably not a bad plan, buddy.
No, yeah, definitely.
Tell us how psychology plays a role in professional wrestling for you.
That's one thing I could not grasp at first. Psychology is like my trainers, everyone would always be telling me, all right, what's the psychology? And to me, I honestly, you hear it all the time, and I would pretend like I understood it. Sometimes I thought I understood it, but it wasn't really until after, working Jake O'Brien and winning the title and stuff like that is where I really started to learn psychology and like how to do little things and how, just certain ways you can tell a story in a match. And I'm still working on it. I'm still not really have all of it, but I'm still just every day trying to figure more of it out. And hopefully once, actually before all this was quarantine happened, I was training like twice a week in a ring, and really we were breaking everything down, and I was really starting to grasp certain aspects of it. But now that haven't been able to be around my other trainees and stuff, hopefully when it gets back, I'll be able to pick back up on it. But yeah, it's the most important part of a match, really.
Was that the most difficult thing to grasp for you in your development?
Oh, for sure. Because like the first day of my training, I could do drop kicks, jump off the rope, flip up, I could do all the fundamentals, but I could not grasp like, all right, why, that was really difficult for me.
So one thing I would definitely tell you to do, since you clearly like the old school wrestling, as a smaller guy, like you said, under that 6 foot, watch Ricky Morton. Yeah. He had those girls in that first row crying when he was getting beat up. And we actually talked about it on the podcast the other day when we were talking about Starrcade 85. The people felt his pain, and therefore they wanted so much more for him. And, that's what we love most about wrestling, Greg and I, is the psychology piece of it. Look, the athletes of today are so much better than they were 30 years ago.
Sure.
But, on a personal level, the storytelling reached me more 30 years ago than it does today.
Yeah.
I would love to see the wrestling community kind of merge the two and put them together. And then I really think you hit a home run. Because, look, we've been wrestling fans longer than you've probably been alive. We're 38 and 39, so I've been watching wrestling since I was 3, and that's only because that's how my parents could get me to shut up. Yeah. We love it, and we hope that through what we do with our podcast, we get other people to love it as well.
Yeah.
So it's really cool hearing you talk about, and acknowledging where you need to grow, because there's a whole lot of guys out there that don't have it in them to admit where they need to go.
Yeah.
Everybody feels they have the answer, and you're clearly working towards making sure you have it and then answering the next question. Tell us some of your other role models in the business.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels, definitely. Chris Jericho, Adam Cole. When I discovered Independence, Ring of Honor, I was like, this guy is almost identical, my same size. So like, he was my guy. Really started looking more at Gino Hernandez things ever since that Dark Side of the Ring came out, and I mean, a lot of Ricky Steamboat, just Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, those guys come to mind. Just how they were all around like a great performer on the mic, in the ring, just all around great guys to look up to, and take certain aspects of them and try to do it in my own way. So what I picked up from seminars, like Alex Shelley has said, like, pick 3 guys and then try to take the best qualities of them and put it into yourself and your character. And that's what I've been trying to do. So yeah, those couple names are the ones that come to mind the most.
Not bad company, buddy. Not bad company at all.
Yeah.
I love the idea of going back and watching Gino Hernandez. He was so talented, and taken away way too soon. Because, I mean, you want to talk like gimmicks? He was the $1 Million Man before the $1 Million Man existed.
Yeah,
and he was a dude. So I want to ask you this, and I hope it doesn't put you on the spot too much. If you were giving yourself advice 4 years ago when you were about to start training, what would you tell yourself now?
One thing is just don't think about it. Like, don't think too much. Just do it. All my life, I've thought I've been my own worst enemy. Always getting in my head. Even like I work myself up, and I put doubts in my head all the time. And I wish I would have known when I was younger to just tell myself, like, just do it. Just nut up or shut up. That's really simple as I can say it. Something else. What was that I was going to say? Don't be afraid to speak up, because, throughout wrestling and even back in the day when I was in high school or whatnot, I would just be too scared to speak up and speak my mind. And I'm just now starting to like really speak up in locker rooms and like put my piece in for matches or shows or my character. And I really wish I would have known 4 years ago to just, speak up, say it with your chest, stuff like that. Those are 2 things that come to mind when I think of advice I could have given myself.
So talk about your most memorable match. What stood out about it to you? How do you think the audience played a role in that standing out to you? Things like that.
Most memorable is probably it was like probably my 10th match or so. It was in OKC at the farmers market for Lucha Americana. I got to work on a show with a lot of big names, like Mil Muertes, Blue Demon Jr., he just signed with MLW, the Latin Heartthrob Dina. And me and my fellow trainee, Tristan Thorne, we got to have a kind of like a tryout or just pre-show match. We were first ones out there in front of, had to have been 300 plus people, all rabid Lucha fans. And everything that we did in the match, they reacted to it loud. Yeah, it was just a really awesome experience to be in that kind of environment.
Just felt like everything clicked for you, like in that particular moment.
Oh yeah, for
Wow.
sure. Because
Nice.
me and Tristan were both really new at that point. Like he'd been wrestling a little bit longer than me, like a couple months longer than me, but we came up through training together, and just having the match together in that kind of environment and crowd was just an awesome experience.
So as we start to kind of tick down here on the lounge, start bringing up a little bit of last call. What do you want the fans to know most about you, and where do you see Johnny Kove going?
Well, I promised myself at the beginning of 2020 I would step out of Oklahoma for good, probably my last year of wrestling here, just to make sure I stay out of my comfort zone. I was planning on going to a few tryout matches, one at IWA Mid-South before all this went down. I plan on trying to get out on the East Coast as much as I can, but what I would like fans to know about Johnny Kove is you haven't seen anything yet. Like, if you look at my old stuff, yeah, you'd see a nervous kid, good-looking guy, strapping young man. But the Johnny Kove that you're going to see in the rest of 2020 is, in fact, the best around. It's not just a catchphrase, it's not my entrance music. That's going to be fact, not fiction. So, really, I just have to show what I know I can do to everyone out there, fans, wrestlers, promoters, everyone. So that's it.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end on that note right there. It was awesome. So why don't you and if you're ever out in the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, all those, like, hit us up, man. We'll be there. We'll support you.
For sure.
Absolutely. So why don't you hit us up with plug your social media, all that stuff, where we can find you before we head out of here.
Instagram, Johnny Kove Pro, Twitter, Johnny Kove 1, Facebook, Johnny Kove. I have a YouTube channel. I'm going to start posting more on there, and hopefully I'll have some good content out there for anyone that's new and wants to check me out. So that's it.
And your match with Jake O'Brien's on there where you win the championship, and I checked that out and prep for the show. It's a really good match, so I suggest everybody, after listening to this, you go out there, go on his YouTube channel and check that match out just to see what you're all about. Chris, you got anything else, man? We good?
Listen, we genuinely appreciate you taking the time out, Johnny, to talk to us. It's always an honor to have such young and up and coming talent in the lounge, and we look forward to following your progress and definitely staying in touch with you, and watch your trajectory continue to grow.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me. I'm glad this was my first podcast, and hopefully there's more to come.
Absolutely.
Whenever, if I ever get big or anything, hopefully we'll see each other down the road.
Absolutely. We're here for you, man. Whatever you need. All right.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again to Johnny Kove for hanging out with us here in the Indy Lounge and sharing his story. Coming up next, we got Grey Orion. But before we get to him, here's what we got coming up for you this week on the podcast. On Monday, May 11th, will be our interview with the great Jackson Stone. Then on Wednesday, May 13th, it's our flagship show, the DDT Archives, and we will cover a classic rivalry between two of the greatest tag teams of all time, that being the Fabulous Freebirds and the Road Warriors. Included in that, we will be doing our first watch-along as we check out a legendary match between those two factions that took place at the first AWA Super Clash in 1985. Looking forward to that. Finally, on Friday, May 15th, it's back to the Indy Lounge as we talk to the numero uno, Ichiban Jaden Newman. All of that and much more in the coming weeks for us here at the DDT Archives and the Indy Lounge. Thank you again for taking this journey with us, but for right now, let's take a journey with Grey Orion.
Very excited today to have someone fresh out on the indie scene, Grey Orion. Grey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, We, we've obviously been speaking through Twitter, and we're definitely excited to get the opportunity to speak to you. It's not often that we have young guys that are willing to talk because they, tend to be a little bit shy early on.
Yeah, it happened.
So tell us a little bit about how you got your start in professional wrestling.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, when it started, I was just I think I was about 18 going on 19. I was pursuing a college soccer career at the time. I wasn't playing for any school, but I was very hopeful to doing something like that. But one thing led to another, and I just wasn't feeling the same passion I originally had for it. And so I was just thinking, well, what can I do? I've been doing all this training in the gym. I need to put it to something. I can't just work out and not do nothing with it. But I always been a wrestling fan since for as long as I can remember. And I just jokingly looked up any promotion in my area over here, and I found one, and gave myself about 6 months to really condition myself in case they had like a rigorous tryout of sorts. And that's how I got started.
How did your soccer experience help you with your training? Because the athleticism's there, man. Like, so how did it help? How did it help you?
Well, when it came to doing the soccer thing, a lot of cardio is definitely involved. And for me, I was a goalkeeper. I wasn't the best at it, but that was like home for me. Like, I didn't want to let nobody pass. And if they did, whatever. But anytime I was able to just take the ball, punt it, it was like just the feeling of kicking was like what really set with me. And so I when I was with my personal trainer, I was like, hey, if I do wrestling, I need to work on my kicks. So I want to keep kicking, and that's kind of how it helped me.
That's awesome.
So talk to us about your training. I know you were trained by Bo Crockett, Aaron Cross, and Dante Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that experience?
Oh man. At first it was I was a little nervous, for lack of a better term, because originally I started in a different promotion in Virginia Beach, and I wasn't really being taught the correct foundation. And the school that I was at first, it wasn't really credited appropriately, and it just had a very bad representation for itself. And so coming in, I really thought it was going to be hard on me because, I guess people who come from there tend to get a little big-headed and kind of think they know everything, as if they're taught everything, but we're not. So when I walked in, one thing they tested was my willpower to keep going with some of the warm-ups and drills. I hate running, but for some reason I love running ropes. So at first they tested how long I could go, and I took, bump after bump after bump, and I just kept getting up like a madman, and I earned their respect that way. And now they love me. I tend to say sorry a lot in training because I love everybody. So they're still beating that out of me, but it can't be helped.
That's awesome. Take us through your debut in pro wrestling.
Okay. Let's see. So my original debut. So at the time, I think the very famous Disney movie Moana came out, and under this mask, I kind of resemble that demigod character that they all know and love. And I was almost pressured into portraying this really short, under 6 foot Maui character. And they said, "Go get a hook." And I was like, I'm not getting a hook. I had the face paint. I felt like I was like the long lost distant cousin of the Usos for a moment. It was cool at first, But then I'm sitting here taking my deep breaths. I'm just nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I hope I can impress the crowd. I hope I can impress the boss. And I guess my music wasn't finalized yet. So I come out to like the intro for Lion King. And I guess it was a remix because it went from the iconic sound in the beginning to something that Regal would walk out to. And, you know, I'm sitting here looking like this Polynesian man, confused because I don't know how to walk. Like, do I walk like I'm a monster, or do I walk like I need a shirt? I don't know how to present myself. So it was very confusing. I remember at first I came out, I was just yelling, acting like I knew what I was doing. And then I looked to a kid and I was like, I'm sorry, this is weird for you. And then I just kept walking to the ring. And I power walked. I didn't want to even hear the music no more. I was so mad. It was embarrassing.
What's your new theme song?
Oh my gosh. It is an intro for an anime called Dimension W, called Genesis. I've been trying to find the anime itself, but I was just listening to SoundCloud and my playlist was on shuffle and it came up. And as soon as I heard it, the first thing I did was put my phone down and just practice my little entrance in my room. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the song. That's the song that brings emotion. So
that's awesome.
That's good. Just kind of hits you, right? It's just it's always something like that when you need something to back you up. It's just like when you're on the search for something and then all of a sudden there it is. That's great.
I'm very big on feeling when it comes to listening to music. So once I was able to feel, I was just like, this is it. If they don't feel, then this is not the right song. But I knew that. I know they do.
Yeah, makes sense, man.
If theme music is so important, I was talking to someone a couple of days ago, and in that conversation, I brought up that if I was in the business, I would have the most ridiculous theme song possible because you're not going to forget the guy that comes out to Glass Tiger. Yeah. Don't forget me when I'm gone.
Wow.
You clearly won't forget me, and everybody will laugh. But, I think everybody wants to be that super serious guy. And, the kids in the front row are going to remember the guy that makes a fool of himself a little bit. And that's why I would do that. I would go Glass Tiger in a heartbeat. And if you don't know who Glass Tiger is, it's a great 80s band from 85 that Greg is just shaking his head mercilessly at me.
I didn't realize you were that into Canadian pop rock.
Listen, dude, I'll listen to anything. You know that. He hit me up the other day and he was like, what are you doing? And I took a picture of my computer screen and it was Belinda Carlisle. I wish I was kidding. Please don't judge me too much, Gray.
Okay. I'm smiling under this.
So that brings me to a great point. So you are a mass superstar. How is that advantageous, and how is it a disadvantage in getting your story across to the audience?
Well, I want to talk about the disadvantages. Because when I first wanted to put this mask on, I was told various times by my trainers that I really shouldn't, because I'm able to portray more emotion with the faces that I make, and I'm not going to disagree. They made a good point, but with me, I was thinking about how to get to the kids, and with this mask, I know that I can really just inspire the little ones and the ones that say like, oh, I wish we could see like a superhero up close. And I can't fly, but I'll do my darndest to try. And so, if anything, the one thing that I could say is an advantage is just being able to connect with the younger audience, the ones that we want to try to keep growing with the business as they learn more about life. And another disadvantage, really, I can't breathe half the time with this mask. I want to say there was like a design flaw. I told them to make this part a little bit more breathable, but if I'm not running too much in the ring, I think I'll be okay. But give me one choke slam, that's it. You better pin me. I'm not getting up. I will not. I'm out. So,
but it's got to be a little bit more freeing to have that air of mystery about you, right, with the mask. Like, I just think that's I'm always fascinated by masked wrestlers. That's why I'm glad we had you on, because it's got to be just like that little advantage of being able to work that much harder to show your emotions through it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. For me, I'm really good at displaying emotion, but one thing I struggle with, not just in wrestling, but just in general, is just kind of giving a better presence of body language. And so I took that on as a challenge of, okay, how can I really communicate without using my face?
Excellent.
So obviously, being so young in the business, you obviously have some long-term goals. Can you tell us a little bit about your long-term goals?
Absolutely. Well, of course, everyone says that they want to make it to the WWE. I would love to at least just have just one shot there. I don't care what kind of match it is, as long as I get to just walk down that aisle and just feel the presence of the crowd on a big stage like that. I hope I can achieve that. Other than that, though, one goal I do have is I really want to wrestle in New Japan as well, because I was actually born in Japan, coming from a military family, and growing up, I always watched WWE, but I never knew for the life of me that there was such a thing as New Japan until I stayed in America this long. And if there's anything that could definitely bring me back, it would be to be able to do something I enjoy in a place that I call home.
That would make a hell of a story, wouldn't it? Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that, I know in our discussion you're originally from Hawaii as well. How long did you live in Hawaii?
I lived in Hawaii, I want to say a total of 6 years. My family, we kind of bounced off between living in Japan and living in Hawaii. The last time we were there was, I want to say, 2010, and we had the choice of going back to Japan or coming to the States here in Virginia. So my dad decided to come here.
Well, thank your dad for his service first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And so that brings up an interesting question for me. In Hawaii, did you tend to watch more New Japan, or did you tend to watch more like WWE?
When I lived there, I definitely watched WWE a lot. It was only until we actually moved here in Virginia where I was able to discover all the different wrestling companies in the world.
Awesome.
I mean, it's great for, we're like a generation older than you. We're in our late 30s. You're a young dude, but like, it's awesome now for you guys. Like when we were young, it was like one thing. Like we had like two shows, and like I would have to go to when we were really young. I had to go to Chris's house to watch like WCW because I didn't have cable. So it was like, and we're in New York, so it was WWE all day, every day here, but just it's I envy the younger generation to come up because at a touch of a button you can get anything you want from anywhere.
True.
And I think that's so cool. And for a guy like yourself who's up and coming, do you use that to as part, especially now when we're like kind of showless with everything going on in the world, are you using that to your advantage to kind of do some homework, watching what you can?
Yeah. I noticed that when you look at different wrestling around the world, stories are told a lot different. Yeah. And I don't know what it is about that one aspect, but I'm really drawn to just how they can just really tell a story with their moves, and that's what drew me to a lot of British wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say like I haven't really been catching up on it recently, but late 2017, I was watching like some I think it was WCPW before they shut down, and it was like the first like British company that put me on to like the British wrestling scene. So then I started looking more and more, and those guys, freaking ruthless, I tell you. Amazing.
Yeah, styles around the world are definitely different than they are here, for sure. We learned that at a young age, watching all the international guys as they came up. But,
so I think we kind of want to end this with this question. So obviously you told us what your ultimate goals are. What do you think the steps you have to take to get there?
Ooh. Well, one thing they don't tell you until you decide to step inside a ring is the drives that you have to take. I believe when it comes to the training inside the ring and preparing for shows, actually getting in your car, if you can drive there, and just hitting those miles is probably the most challenging part, because there's going to be places that are maybe 2 hours away from home, and you're going to have places that are probably 14 hours away from home, and you can either be by yourself or be with a group of people. That's where like you kind of get in your own head, especially if like you drive 14 hours and the match is trash. You have 14 hours to really think like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing, or am I just wasting my time? And not only that, meeting different promoters from all these different companies, you could show them one of your matches, and that alone could just determine your value for to be used at that company within that time. But whenever they do give you that chance, it's another load of pressure, because you don't want to mess up that one chance that they're willing to give you. And if you do well, of course, they may invite you back. And if you do well, they still may not invite you back. But just being able to accept that and just being mentally strong through it all is probably what I believe will definitely get me there. Just knowing that regardless of what outcome I get from any company I touch, that I'm still going to make it regardless.
And I have no doubt that you will. So listen, here's what we would love to do. We'd love to follow along your career and have you back in the next 6 to 12 months. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously there's no wrestling happening right now, but all I'm doing is just looking forward to the day that I can really get back in the ring and just continue to tell the story that I want to tell.
Awesome. So we look forward to that conversation. And, this has been the DDT Archive. I am Cliff. You can follow me on Twitter at Cliff_DDTHSLB. You can follow Greg at DDT Archives. He has the easier Twitter handle to remember. Gray, where can our listeners follow you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at Grey Ultra.
Awesome. Any other social media you want to get out there?
Yeah. I have an Instagram also at Grey Ultra, but I am definitely more active on Twitter.
Sounds good. Well, once again, thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and good luck to you down the road, and we hope to hear from you soon. Okay, bud?
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Absolutely.